Hey, welcome to TribeCast Bible Study. My name is Jonathan.
And my name is Caitlin.
And today we're going to talk about Matthew chapters 6 through 8 in the New International Version. We're going to go over a brief summary of what happened in those chapters, and then we're going to talk about some of the verses that we either really liked or that confused us or that gave us an emotional reaction or that we can relate to in real life. Let's go ahead and get started. In chapters 6 and 7, Jesus continues his teachings to his disciples and the crowd that he had in chapter 5 in our last video. His teachings range from giving to the needy, to prayer, to fasting, to treasures in heaven, to judging others, to true and false prophets, as well as true and false disciples. By the end of it all, the crowds are amazed at how much authority Jesus has in his voice as he speaks.
In chapter 8, Jesus heals a man with leprosy by touching him and sends him off to the chief priest as testimony. Jesus then heals a centurion's servant without even being in his presence because he's amazed at his faith. Jesus continues to heal many more sick people as they are brought to him. And then Jesus' disciples follow him on a boat and they encounter a furious storm. And then Jesus calms the wind and the waves, much to his disciples' amazement. Jesus finally exorcises demons out of 2 possessed men and into a herd of pigs. The pigs then run into a lake and then they die in the water. Oddly enough, the town comes and pleads with Jesus to leave the region after that.
And yeah, that's what happens in those chapters. Let's go ahead and get started, yeah?
Yep.
Here we go.
Okay.
So chapter 6. Right off the bat, I start off with verses 1 and 2.
Okay.
I highlighted them. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them or to make a podcast on the internet about you doing Bible study. I'm just kidding.
I don't think that's the same thing.
Yeah, for others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and the streets to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. Right? I like this because this is one of the bigger verses that I struggled with, or one of the bigger issues that I struggled with was like doing things by myself, praying by myself, practicing by myself, and thinking about God when I was by myself. Mm-hmm. That was one of the hardest things that and so whenever he says right there, do not do as the hypocrites did in the synagogues, and do not do things in front of others to be seen by them, and you'll have no reward in heaven from your Father. It's just, that was a rough thing for me. Is that something that you struggle with at all?
Sometimes. I mean, it's easy to want attention or want people to think that you're, really close to God, or you want to put off this image to people, and so that's relatable.
Let's see. And oddly enough, that little section was about giving to the needy, but it kind of had more to do with being in private or practicing your faith in private. I guess it finishes off with talking about the needy, and then the next thing that I had was verse 7. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like the pagans, or like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words, which again was something that I struggled with, and that you've seen me struggling with, was how to pray, how to pray in such a way that I feel good about it, mm-hmm. and that I'm not just constantly questioning, am I praying correctly, or am I saying the right words? And then you listen to other people pray, mm-hmm. and they pray very I don't know,
eloquently.
Yes, mm-hmm. That's exactly it. And so,
yeah.
And you've seen how I pray. It's super chill, and I try to pop in a couple jokes just because I think God would like that. I don't know. Uh-huh. It's weird. What do you think about whenever you're praying?
I am not much of an eloquent words person. I don't know. I think it's hard for me in general, when I'm talking to people, and especially in groups of people, it's hard for me to keep my train of thought sometimes, and sometimes I get nervous, and so I just have to and that's not only in prayer, that's just in general. And mm-hmm. so
that you're not an eloquent words person?
Yeah, and just getting nervous talking in front of people. So I don't know. I like this verse because it makes me feel like I don't have to be that way. at the end it says, "Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him." So it's not about like saying things in the most perfect way or sounding great in front of other people. It's about what you're saying and what you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's about what's like, this is gonna sound really cheesy, but it's about like what's in your heart. No,
I agree. I don't think that sounds cheesy at all. I think that is one of the big things, like, that you don't really know what to say in your head, and that like God can like hear your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of becomes a little, at least for me, it becomes a little bit of a barrier.
Oh.
Because it's like, so why do I need to say them in my head or out loud if He knows what I'm thinking, right? And what I've found is that just saying them out loud actually helps a lot, because then my thoughts don't get ahead of my words, and then I can just express them, and I feel good about expressing them, right? Even though like whatever's in my heart, then God can hear that, and so it's like I don't need to say that. I don't need to say them, or I don't need to think them, because He already knows. But still, it feels good to have done it, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like it's more meaningful when you like when you've like specifically asked for something, when it's not just kind of like thinking like I need this or I need that, just kind of like passively thinking it. But when you specifically ask God for that thing, I think it's more meaningful when you receive it. And also, I don't think it's bad to be like an eloquent prayer. Actually, I think it's really awesome. And I think that's like somewhere that one can get over time, like the more you pray and like the closer you get to God, just like with a normal like one-on-one relationship with someone, like you get more comfortable with that person and better talking to them, and so, or like it's easier to talk to them. So I think that that's an awesome thing too. Yeah,
there's some people that we know that are just like they can go off
yeah
really well, and I'm just thinking like, dang man, where do they store all this stuff?
Yeah.
Is this rehearsed right now?
Yeah, so I think the most important part of this passage is just like making sure that while you're praying, you're still praying for something. Like you're not just kind of saying words for the sake of saying things, but saying it like really meaning something.
With some strong intent. Cool. I don't have anything until 24, so if you have anything in between that you want to talk about.
Not really, I don't think. Wait. Ooh, before 24, in like 19 through 21, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where the thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I like that part a lot, especially verse 21. Just like knowing where your focus should be, like aiming for like goals of the kingdom and not just for like everyday things here. Not that it's bad to have goals here, but just like really putting your focus on like what God wants.
Yeah, I think God illustrates that Jesus illustrates that very well in 24. This leads in perfectly. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And that's a tough concept to like overcome in this world that is so materialistic and requires money to do anything. It's hard not to like worry about it or to think about it. But I think what he's trying to say is it's not worship it.
Yeah.
Like you don't necessarily have to like disavow money or anything like that. It's just don't worship it over God.
And something you said, talking about worrying about it, is a great transition into the next section, which is do not worry.
Perfect. But before we get there, really quick, I wanted to talk about this one line that I don't know why. I guess I've always skipped over it. The eye is the lamp of the body.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
I don't know. That's why I circled it. I thought I understood it, but the more I read it, I feel feel like the less I know what it means.
The eye is the lamp of the body. Okay, so what does a lamp do? It lights up the area around it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the eyes light up, let you see everything. I guess a lamp lets you see everything around it. The eyes let you see everything around your body.
Okay, so if your eyes are healthy, so if your eyes are lighting things up, your whole body will be full of light. So does that mean if your eyes are like seeing things that are like good? Does it have to do with like what you are seeing?
Yeah, like what you're taking in, what you're choosing to see, more or less.
Possibly.
Interesting.
But if your eyes are unhealthy.
By the way, that's chapter 20, or that's
verse 22.
Verse 22
of chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness?
I mean, it has to be that, because we know how Jesus speaks. He speaks in code, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not talking about just like the actual, like, or a very simple metaphor about like if your eyes are able to see, then you'll be able to see everything in your body. He's talking about, like if you choose to see good things, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't know if we're getting the metaphor right. But I think that it's a pretty good guess if it's not. Yeah. But next to this whole thing, I wrote, be careful of what you see. But I don't know if I wrote that because that was my interpretation or if I like learned that somewhere.
Interesting. Yeah, be careful of what you see.
That's a good one to ask about or to look more into.
Because you're very careful about what you expose yourself to. Mm-hmm. And so that would make a lot of sense for your particular situation. I don't know, life. And then I don't have anything else until 34, which is in that do not worry section.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Mm-hmm. Which I like that because it reminds me very much of that other line, let the dead bury their own. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, oddly enough, I think we're going to run into soon. I'm not sure.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know where that is. Or I don't remember. But, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that line as well. I just like it. But also, like, even, I don't know, I just love this whole passage, like, from 25 to 34. Just, like, all the imagery and stuff. Like, the birds flying in the air and the Lord feeding them and the flowers in the field and, you know, how beautifully they're dressed. Yeah. And so, then the end at like 32 when it says, for the pagans run after all these things and your heavenly Father knows that you need them, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness and all these things will be given to you as well. And so I think that pretty much sums it up. It's like God knows what you need and he'll give you what you need. But it's important to seek his kingdom first. So that kind of, I think, goes back to like, you know, the whole treasures in heaven thing. But yeah.
Good. That's it for 6 for me.
Yep, me too.
Very good. Moving on to 7. You want to start?
What do I have? Ooh, do you have anything before verse 6?
Yep, I have 4. I have verse 6 as well, and that's going to be a very interesting one to get into. But let's do 4 really quick. Matthew 7:4. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly enough to remove the speck from your brother's eye. I think that's a really good visual that Jesus paints there. It's like, what's the actual... Okay, so he uses speck and plank, right? So the speck in your brother's eye, like don't worry about the speck, the little tiny thing in your brother's eye, the little imperfection that he has. First worry about the plank in yours. Worry about the big things that are bringing you down and fix those first. If you haven't fixed those about yourself, what gives you the right, what gives you the anything to like try to fix someone else? I think that's a big problem in today's society. Everyone's trying to fix everybody else. But I think it's just best to fix yourself first, because that will give you the competence that you need to like go out and try to change the world or whatever it is. Yeah,
I think it's important, like before you like, you know, are wanting to talk to someone else about a particular issue, to really examine yourself and think, like, am I struggling with that? Or am I struggling with, like, something else? Because I think it would be natural, like, you know, when you approach someone to, I don't know, you know, like, talk about an issue, it's natural to, like, get defensive, and, you know, they could be like, well, why do I need to change? You're doing this. It's like, well,
Yep.
You're not wrong. I am. And so, yeah, you become a hypocrite.
Let's get into 6.
Okay. So I've been confused about this verse forever.
As have I.
Since the beginning of time. And so I just asked about it
Since 180.
earlier this week. And the answer that I was given...
Well, let's read it first.
Oh, you're right. Good idea.
All right.
Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample on them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. And so, first of all, I was like, what does this have to do with judging others?
Yeah.
I don't understand how this is relevant. And then also, even if it doesn't have anything to do with judging others, what does it mean at all?
And why is it here?
Yeah. I couldn't guess what the metaphor meant at all. And so, yeah, I just asked about it last week. And what I was told, and of course this isn't like this is for sure exactly what it means, and this is the only answer. But the interpretation that I was given was that, so let's see. It's like sharing wisdom with people, or like giving answers or that kind of stuff. If you share it with people that won't appreciate it, then it's like not worth it. Man, I wish I could word this as well as the person told me, but
it's making sense. Because like if you give someone that like really, really good knowledge or like really good wisdom or whatever's advice, I don't know, what was the word that you used?
I said wisdom.
Wisdom. Yeah, like you give that to them, they might be resentful of you for that. Like, who are you? Like, you know, they don't respect you. They don't appreciate what you're giving them. They might turn on you, as it says right there. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces.
Yeah.
So they might turn on you for having tried to make them better in some way.
So yeah, my understanding is that like it's just important to like to think about it before like giving someone advice, or like, you know, just sharing like any kind of wisdom or whatever. You know, thinking about who you're sharing it with, and if they'll, if they'll appreciate it, or, you know, understand it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and especially in the context now. Like it's that line is a lot more contextualized for me, at least now. So that I'm thinking about it in that way.
So like maybe it's better even not to share it share it at that moment.
Yeah, or just be careful about. Just think about it first. Mm-hmm.
And I think Jesus like exercises that sometimes too, like later in the Bible, like, you know, sometimes they'll ask him questions and he'll just like not answer. And I know sometimes when I read that, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not saying anything? But maybe it's just that he feels in that moment that like it's just better to not say anything at all, because they're not going to get it.
The next thing that I have is 13 and 14, the narrow and wide gates. It says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only few find it. The part that confuses me about that a little bit is the part where it says, narrow the road that leads to life, and only few find it. So, in this way, is destruction and life, are those two things being like, what's the right word? Are they being put opposed to each other? Or like, what's the intent there for the line is what I'm trying to figure out. What do you think about it?
I am honestly not sure.
Good. We don't have to have the answers. We could always write it down and come back to it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, because like I've heard this one talked about before, but I don't know that I really understand it all that well still.
And if you guys have some sort of like knowledge about this particular one, Matthew 7, 13 and 14, and you want to talk about it in the comment section, please feel free, and we'll try to respond to you. Let's see.
Back to 7 through 12. I don't really have a whole lot. What did I write here? But yeah, I feel like I talk a lot about these verses, the ask, seek, and knock part. But yeah, I love them so much. I feel like...
Why?
I don't know. It is encouraging to me, like, to ask the Lord for things. Ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. And it's like if you're asking and you are in pursuit of something, like God acknowledges that and like wants to give it to you. And not saying 100% that you'll get everything you ask for, but the Lord gives good gifts, which is what it says later. If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? And so, it's just saying God wants to give you good things. And I think the reason I love that so much is just that, like, it reminds me of, like the Lord's love for us. It's not just like, ask for things and this God out there will just kind of give them to you if he wants to. But it's like God wants to give you good things because he loves you. And I just love that.
Yeah, I like it too.
Now I'm ready to move on.
Cool. 18 and 19 and 20 I highlighted. It's just a little bit of a confusing set of verses for me. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, they will recognize them. The wording of that is just so weird to me.
About like the good fruit and bad fruit?
Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Right? So, like, first off, that fire wasn't like kind of like prefaced anywhere, and so I didn't have much context for the fire. Mm-hmm. And then the wording of 20 is what's really confusing. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them.
Well, the beginning of the section starts out with watch out for false prophets. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's specifically what he's talking about here. And I think fruit is like, the things that people are saying and doing. And like what their personality is like. So if like maybe preachers are up in front of the church saying one thing, but then you look at their lives and they're doing a completely different thing, that's like a tree bearing bad fruit. Mm-hmm. So by their fruit you will recognize them, is like you look at their lives, mm-hmm. and you can recognize that.
Yeah, that made more sense to me when I switched 20 and put in front of 19. Mm-hmm. It says if I did that, it would say a good tree cannot bear bad fruit and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Thus, by their fruit you will recognize them, and every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Like, that made more sense to me, and so I was kind of confused about why 20 was placed at the back after the whole fire line. But
yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't. I'll think about it some more.
Yeah, I feel like it makes sense either way. It's just.
Yeah, I'm probably dumb.
That's not what I meant.
Let's see. And then the only thing I have left in 7 is 23. Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.
I have that underlined with a frowny face.
Yeah, right?
It just makes me sad to think about, like, if Jesus were to say that to me, that would make me really sad.
You'd probably die right then and there. Yeah, that's horrifying to think about. That he would turn you away. Yeesh. And then
I never knew you.
I never knew you.
Yeah, so that just makes me want to be someone that Jesus knows,
mm-hmm.
you know?
So that doesn't happen. Yeah. Well, then that's all I have for 7. And that's kind of brings us to a close of the of the Beatitudes from 5 to 7. And at the end of it all, everyone's amazed. Everyone's amazed because he taught as someone who had authority in their voice. And that's the end of all the Beatitudes. Hopefully y'all caught the end or the beginning of the Beatitudes in chapter 5 in our last video. But now we'll move on to chapter 8.
Wait, I was thinking, on verse 29, it says, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. I was just wondering, like, what does that say about how their teachers of the law taught? I mean,
it's interesting.
I think about, like, at church, like, when, you know, our pastors are teaching, I feel like well, and I guess it depends on what it means by authority, too, because, you know, like, even though the pastors aren't saying, like, I wrote the Bible and I know everything there is to know, like, I don't feel like they're, like, shy or something. So I guess I just wonder, it depends on what it means by authority.
Sometimes authority is used, at least what I've seen in Matthew, authority is used to mean, like, someone who has actual power. Not someone who, like, is speaking with authority, but, like, someone who's speaking with authority, yes, but has the actual power to back it up, has the actual, like, say to do so or something like that. Yeah, that's what I've kind of seen. I know that sounds kind of weird.
No, but I think you have the right idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of a dumb question, but
it's okay.
Who knows? Maybe allowed. I'm not the only one thinking about authority.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
Okay, so now I'm ready for chapter 8.
Cool. You want to go ahead?
What do I have? I don't really have that much. You go ahead first.
Okay. Yeah, chapter 4 is where I start.
Verse 4? Yeah,
when Jesus heals a man with the leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priests and offer the gift Moses commanded as testimony to them. Firstly, I was going to ask you, do you know what the gift Moses commanded was? Because I didn't look it up, but I was just reading it and I was like, I wonder what that is.
You know, I don't know either.
Okay, then we need to look that up. But still, it's still a little confusing to me. But go, see that you don't tell anyone. So first off, see that you don't tell anyone. Right away, he very clear instructions. But go and show yourself to the priest and offer the gifts Moses commanded as testimony to them. So, like, he's saying, don't tell anyone. Maybe there's something that has to do with, like, don't tell anyone, but show them. Don't say, but show them.
Maybe he means, like, don't tell anyone along the way. Like, just go straight to the priest and...
That could be it.
Show him.
Yep.
Maybe.
See that you don't tell anyone. Oh, yeah. Go straight there. Like, because we know that people are trying to kill Jesus, right? At this point, are they trying to kill him? Yeah, they've been trying to kill him since he was a baby.
Well, that was a Herod thing.
Oh, that's true.
That wasn't... I don't think that was yet about the Pharisees and stuff, because they get jealous later.
They are trying to persecute him right now, because they did send him away from, like, Nazareth or wherever it was that he was. Remember when he healed someone, or when he exorcised those two guys with the pigs, the herd of pigs?
That hasn't happened yet.
Oh,
that's later in this chapter.
What a fool.
That happened in the summary.
See that you don't tell anyone. So it could mean, like, make sure that you get to the priest safely so that you can show them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. That could be it.
Yeah, because if someone knows that you're trying to carry this, like, message of the miracle that like Jesus just bestowed upon you, there could be reason for someone to try to stop that word from spreading or something like that.
Yeah, that's possible.
I don't know.
It's not very specific, so I don't know for sure.
Jesus never is, so that's... I mean, except in that one verse where he's like, Lazarus is dead. I don't want to put a graphic up here, but, like, if you can, like, find out where Jesus heals Lazarus or revives Lazarus, that's the one part where I thought it was really funny that Jesus stops being really, like, metaphorical and really, like, cryptic, and then he's finally just, like, looks at his disciples and he's like, oh, these guys are dumb. Lazarus is dead. So if you guys want to look that up, I just think that's so funny.
Is that the whole thing when he was... Okay, never mind. We shouldn't get into it.
Yeah.
But...
We'll get into it sometime soon. Let's see. Sometimes he's so funny.
In John.
Yeah, I think it is in John, actually. But don't quote me on it.
Okay, yeah. So whatever he means by don't tell anyone.
Mm-hmm. And then I have 10. When Jesus heard this...
Ooh.
You have 10 as well?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, first let's try to contextualize it. What's going on here? Under my roof.
This is the whole thing with the centurion.
Yeah, the centurion tells him that his servant is sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, I don't deserve to have you under my roof. Like, just say that my servant will be healed, and he will be. And then when Jesus heard this from the centurion, he was amazed, and he said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Because it's not like, at this point, Jesus hasn't just healed someone by, like, saying it, like long distance healing or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's, like, touched people. He's touched people and healed them,
mm-hmm.
but he hasn't done that. So, like, this centurion having faith and saying, like, please, like, I can't have you under my roof. I'm not worthy of that. Please just say that he'll be healed, and he will be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big show of faith right there. It's like the centurion already knows that Jesus can heal by touching someone.
Yeah.
But he's ascribing to him this, like, even further power of healing, just like long distance healing. So that's a good show of faith, I feel.
Oh yeah, for sure. The part that I really like is when it says he was amazed, because like I was reading what you wrote for the summary, and it said Jesus was amazed, and I was like, amazed? Yeah, I don't know, that's a pretty big word. Like, that has a lot to it, like for him to be amazed with that guy. So I was like, I don't know. So I went back to read it in here, and it literally says amazed.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, Jesus was amazed with this guy. And I just feel like that means a lot, and it
mm-hmm.
like says something about like Jesus' character and like the way that he feels about us.
About great faith.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just thought that was awesome that Jesus was amazed with this guy.
That's crazy because he knows everything, and he was still amazed.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Yeah, I had to read when I was typing that up. I was like, I had to think about that again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he was amazed. I didn't read that right, but sure enough. Let's see. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but that's part of the reason why I highlighted that one. And then let's see. I have 12. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing, of teeth. That line sounds very damning, very condemning. Like, I didn't like it the first time I read it. I still don't like it.
Yeah, and it says that a lot throughout the Gospels specifically.
What, weeping and gnashing of teeth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really understand its like contextualization right here within this particular section.
Well, maybe we should bring it back a little bit. Like verse 11 says, I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I think it's basically like a heaven or nah thing, right? Like everybody's going to be, you're either going to be at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or you're not.
I guess I just don't understand why the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside. Like, it doesn't really ever say that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he means by, or why he used subjects of the kingdom.
Maybe subjects of the kingdom are the people who were already, like, self-righteous. They were already, like, royalty or whatever.
Oh, yeah, like the Jews that didn't believe in him. Maybe that's what he means.
Like chief priests and stuff like that? Pharisees?
Yeah. Like, or just whoever, like, didn't accept him. Because it says many will come from the east and the west, and that could be, like, the Gentiles that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really thought that much about this verse before. But, yeah, and then the subjects are the ones that have been there the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, but then God moves out to the Gentiles as well. So, yeah, I think that's what it could mean.
Yeah. And then, do you have anything before 20?
No.
Cool. Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." I get what he's saying. Like, I get what he's saying in the context of this little section. Because what is he doing here?
Oh, someone just said, a teacher of the law came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said, "Look, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head."
So he's warning him about the cost of following him.
I think so.
Okay. And another disciple said to him.
Oh!
Yeah, you know what line is coming.
Uh-huh.
Another disciple said to him, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father."
But Jesus told him, "Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead."
Yeah, you can't be worrying about everyone else, or I guess specifically about the dead. Like, life is for the living. So
What I wrote was, stop making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Lord, I'll follow you, but first just let me graduate college, or first just let me write this essay, or, whatever. But
Or work
God
this on
says-
call.
yeah, God says, stop making excuses. Follow me now, because this is the most important thing.
Yep. Anything else?
Oh, okay. In the next part, when Jesus calms the storm, then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. That part just cracks me up. Like, this huge storm is happening, waves are coming over the boat, and Jesus is just sleeping. Then the disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." And he says, "You have little faith, why are you so afraid?" And I just picture Jesus I was so tired, I was sleeping. And he gets up and rebukes the winds. He's like, "Stop."
I'm trying to sleep here.
And the waves, "Stop." And it was completely calm. It was just like...
It's a funny visual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for him to just wake up and be like, "Oh, guys, can't you
Your
guys take care of
little
anything
faith."
by yourself?"
Chill
I'm just
out. But, yeah, I don't know. I just like that story. It makes me laugh.
Did you not believe that I was going to calm this storm from my nap? What did you think was going to happen? I was going to let it tear us apart?
Yeah, but in all seriousness, like, I guess the main takeaway from this story for me is, like, even though you can have, like, a metaphorical storm in your life, there are a lot of stuff going on, and it feels like your boat is literally about to go under the water.
Metaphorically.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Your literal lifeboat. But yeah, you're just about to be swallowed up by the water. It's like you still have to have faith that Jesus is going to take care of it.
Yep. And then we end off with Jesus restoring 2 demon-possessed men. And I highlighted 32 all the way down to 34. He said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake. I guess we should contextualize this a little bit. 2 guys are like demon possessed, and then they tell Jesus, "Take these demons out of us, and if you do, throw them into that herd of pigs." And so Jesus does. And then the whole herd rushed down to the steep bank into the lake and died in the water. Those tending the pigs ran off, went into the town, and reported all of this, including what happened to the demon-possessed men. What did happen to them? They were just, like, cured? Is that what that means?
I guess
Then
so.
the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and they saw him. They pleaded with him to leave their region. That's rough.
Mm-hmm.
They see him cure 2 demon-possessed men, and that's so scary to them. Such a foreign concept that someone would be able to do that and not be evil or something like that. That they're scared of him, which is, that's rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the whole, just the whole concept of, demons and driving out demons and all of that. I guess the town was just like too shook, and they just wanted everything about it just like away from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way that I picture it. Because Jesus like did a good thing, so it's weird for them to be like, get out of here, like you just saved these guys, but get lost. And so,
Yeah.
When I think about why they would do that, it's like maybe they're just too overwhelmed by like the whole situation.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
You think so?
Yeah, it's just it's hard to think why they would, because everyone has been like hearing about everything that Jesus has been doing up to this point, and it's hard to try to like pinpoint why they specifically, like why this was the line that was crossed, and everyone was like, okay, you gotta go. When you start pushing demons into pigs, like that's when you gotta go, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to pinpoint why.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Mine's just a guess, but
Yeah.
that would be interesting to look into more as well, actually.
Yep. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end of today's Bible study. We did 6 through 7. Next time we'll try to do 9 through 11 or something like that. We're still trying to mess with the formula a little bit to see like what is the right length, what would make for like an actual digestible Bible study session for you guys.
So let us know what you think.
Yes, if you have any comments, any suggestions or anything like that, you can put them in the comment section down below. We'll try to read them once this is posted. I don't know, like we'll try. There's no promises, but we'll try. And then we'll see you guys next time. Anything you want to say?
Nope. Thanks for watching.